So in this video, I am learning Drunkard's Path, as well as I'm improvising with what I have in my scraps. I'm going to, in the description, post a link to the original free pattern that was shared with me. But in that, it asked for different rulers, or you could print and FPP it. Well, after some brainstorming and after trying to use what I had on hand, I came up with, I'm going to use the Drunkard Path template that I already had from Marty Michelle and just go with that size. And so that did alter what the original pattern had. And then the original pattern wanted these spiky guys to be uniform. And so what it did was it created almost like a diamond shape. Let's see if I can find something to separate that. So here where I have wonky star points, the original pattern wanted it to be like that. I don't know what kind of triangle that is called, but it's these two angles, and then it created that half a diamond in the middle. I didn't have those tools, and I wasn't going to FPP this scrappy project. And so I was online sewing with a couple different friends, and we brainstormed, how could I do this on my own with what I got? And so I pulled out my scrap bin, and I pulled out my half square triangle flip and sew corners. Yes, a whole shoebox full, because I'm afraid to throw those away. Well, they came in handy with this project. So upon doing the math of what my Drunkard's Path could make me, which is going to be, let's see here, reorganize. I was able to make this and the size that my templates provided. So after getting that math figured out, I was able to break down and figure out the math of these 4 pieces. And then here with my half square triangle flip and sew cutoffs, I was able to do wonky star points. And I'm saving another bag of scraps out of all of this. I was able to do the wonky star points. And so my block now looks like, potentially, this. Well, actually, he doesn't go there. Give me a second. I'm mixing them all up off the wall. I'll go ahead and show you how it's laid out on the wall. I was just grabbing. So my actual block for this set could potentially be like this. Well, what I also did was I went to the color wheel and I inserted this light pinky purpley batik. And knowing that I didn't have enough of this, I wanted continuity in the scrappy quilt. I didn't have enough of this pink. And so the color wheel actually paired it with a light green. So now what I'm thinking is that I'm gonna do half and half blocks, possibly. At the end of the video, we'll all see what my final choice was, won't we? Right? But either way, we'll figure that out when we get there. What I'm going to do now is just quickly walk through how I'm building these, and then I'll show the design wall, or I'll show the blocks, or we'll fumble and mumble our way through the final. Do I leave them as pink blocks and green blocks, or do I mix and match pink, green, pink, green? We'll get there. So either way, I started with my background square. I am now going to take my Drunkard Path template, and I'm going to cut out that top L shape. Then I actually started with that same size square in my Scrappy Prints, and off camera I already cut out my pie-shaped F.
I did not start with the Scrappy square. I just started with the scrap
so
that the template could fit in.
Done. This part, I am going to stack. I've got 3 here. I'm going to go ahead and lay him there. And this is asking me, or telling me, to use my rotary cutter on the outside as shown. And I'm going to proceed to do that. I am saving these guys. I don't know what yet for, but it's amazing that a scrap quilt just makes more scraps. I'm also have enough that nothing is doubled. So any of my pie pieces, those are all one-time use on the Scrappy Prints. Any of my single scrappy squares that are in all the blocks are one-time use. If I cut one out, I did not cut it twice. So this is going to be super duper scrappy, but it's fun to go through because I can tell you all the different projects all of these came from. And then the little pointy guys, when I was digging through the half square triangle bin, what I wanted to make sure was that I had enough that the 4 points in that block matched. Like this. I don't have that same print used again though at all in any of the blocks. And so sometimes we get a whole lot of those flip and stitch guys, as you can see here. I did keep the big ones. I mean, and these are all different sizes. And I think that's the fun part of making this wonky. And then I have all of those guys already cut. So I'm going to continue cutting through these. Again, this is my first time ever. I've had the templates for a while. A friend of mine gifted them to me, and I have been way too chicken to try it until I saw this pattern and knew that I had to at least give it a go. One, it's a scrap buster, right? 2, it's a stash buster, because this pink and this green are yardage that I've had on the shelves forever. And what better way to learn something than to just go ahead and try it. After I get all of these cut, I will be right back with how I proceed to pin and stitch them. So now that I have all of my pies cut and all of my L's cut, they're going to go like that. Here is one that has been pinned. It looks kind of funny. And I think that this is where I was super scared to try curves, because I was like, oh my gosh, all that bias. What am I supposed to do on those turns? I don't get it. I'm telling you, after that first one, I was like, wow, Jessica, you really should have just given this a go years ago. So you can see that I have 3 pins. I do not pre-pin all of them. I actually take them to the machine like this, pin, stitch, leave it on the machine, remove the pins, and then start the next one. That way I don't have 80 pins floating around at one time. It's easier for me to just control those 3 by removing them and then putting them to the next guy. So I don't know how you do this. I don't know how anyone else does this. This is what I've gotten comfortable with after those first batch of pink ones. I take my pie face to face, fold it in half, find the center, crease it, take my L, which it's a batik, so there is no face, find the center, crease it. I now take that center crease, put them together, pin them, come to one edge, bring that straight guy to the straight edge, line him up perfectly, pin him in place, come to the other side, find the straight guy, bring him to the straight edge. That way there's no twisting or turning or pinning to the wrong place. My brain had to tell me straight edge, right? That way I kept it straight. Now when I go to my sewing machine, I'm going to put the pie down and leave the L up. I'm going to start at my 1/4 inch, get to the pin, remove it. And then I use the stiletto. And as that's going through, I'm using this stiletto to pick up, I don't think it's going to do it on my cutting mat, to pick up and pull, right? And so let's pretend my finger is the needle. I come here, I make sure I'm straight. I use the stiletto to hold it. I stitch. And then I use that stiletto again just to make sure everything stays paired up. I get to the second pin, remove it, and then I do the same thing. If my finger is my needle, I'm using the stiletto to line it up, place it, wiggle it, and then proceed all the way down here to the edge, and then see how he wants to kind of come off of there. I would use the stiletto at the machine to hold him in place as I come off the edge so they stay straight. That is just how I've gotten comfortable doing it. I am not a professional. This is my first time doing a Drunkard's Path block. You can see here on the pink ones, I mean, they look pretty good to me. I have a slight wrinkle there, but it's not a pleat. And I have a hiccup where I probably sneezed or my phone rang. It happens. But even on this one, it's smooth. There's a little bit of a wrinkle right there. This is the final edge, right? Because I'm starting here. So I'm not sure what I'm doing incorrectly at this point to get that wrinkle, but it's not a pleat. It's not like permanent. If you know the solution, please tell me in the comments. It's not on all of my blocks. I just noticed it on those 2 that I grabbed right off the wall because they were closest to me. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go to the machine. I'll stitch all of these up. Because I'm a prepper, it's easier for me to go ahead and talk about this stage before I go sew those curves. I did the math, and I had already pre-cut my green squares. Each block takes 3 background squares. And then each block takes a scrap. So I've already gone through, cut, press and piled them. All of these guys are the same as these guys. They are in their permanent positions. Then I've taken the extra 2 backgrounds and paired them up with 4 cutoffs. And I've done that to all of my blocks, pieces, or prepped, or however you want to call that. This is going to go to my sewing machine with me as well. I'm going to go ahead and chain piece everything. I'm going to chain piece all my curves, get them all out of the way, toss them to the side. I'll clip them and press them. Then I'm going to also chain piece here. What I'm going to do though is take the first batch, take my 2 squares. I'm going to only add 1 and 1, and I'm going to put these guys to the side. Then they're going to be moving down the line of the chain stitch, right? My next one, same thing. I'm going to open up the 2 green squares, and I'm going to put 2 wonky halves, and I'm going to take the other 2 and stack them directly above each other. And that way, when I get to the end and I clip them, all I have to do is come back to the machine, take the next pile, and it's already going to be in order. Then I'm going to stitch the second side of all the wonky squares, stars, whatever we want to call these. Let's see, did that make sense? If you ever have any questions about how I do these, I know there's Quilt Police, I know there's books, I know there's traditional, I know there's modern, and then there's just me. And I kind of just mix and match what I've learned and seen and practiced along the way. Sometimes something doesn't work, you know, 2-3 years ago for me, and then I retry it and then it works perfectly. Or sometimes I really don't think I can do the quilt math, and then I get out my paper and I write and I write and I write and I draw and I figure it out. And like in this case, I now have exactly what I need for my final quilt size, because I do like squares. And so I'm doing a total of 25 blocks. My block, like I showed earlier, my block consists of 4 units, 2 units of each. So I believe in my little notes, I called this guy A, so I need 2 A units. And then I need 2 B units. And in this scenario put together, it creates 1 block. But on here, I also had to figure out the math. And so I broke those down. A's, a B, and a C. Even though the C, right, was my background. And isn't that cute? Life threw me scraps. And I'm making a scrap quilt. So I'm calling this whole thing a block. I need 25 of these. Since I'm doing 2 background options, right now I have it as 13 pink, 12 green. That's if I keep them as individual blocks. Once I start moving along, if I decide to mix and match my colors, I might need a tad more, 1 more block set of green to compensate for the mixing up. We'll see. I wanted to come in real quick during this step. After I stitch, I'm going to take a pair here just to get the rest out of the way. I very organically lay that half square triangle on there. I test run that it'll fit, and I just stitch the line. I do that to both and then move it on. Then I come, after that whole pile's been done, I come and press them. And I just take that little flap, bring it over, press it flat. I'll bring the next one an inch away, press it flat. And I just make a whole row on my cutting station. And I just slightly move the iron each time I put a new piece. And I go all the way down until I run out of space. I also do not trim anything. I'm going to press, and then I'm just going to leave them. I'm going to continue to stack them, put them back in the pile, come back with that next side. If it overlaps, I'm okay with that. Right? I'm going to put both pieces, I'm going to stitch them, press them again, and then their back sides will look kind of funny. That's okay with me. I'm okay with the bulk. I'm okay with the overlap. I wanted to come in real quick during this step. After I stitch, I'm going to take a pair here just to get the rest out of the way. I very organically lay that half square triangle on there. I test run that it'll fit, and I just stitch the line. I do that to both and then move it on. Then I come, after that whole pile's been done, I come and press them. And I just take that little flap, bring it over, press it flat. I'll bring the next one an inch away, press it flat, and I just make a whole row on my cutting station, and I just slightly move the iron each time I put a new piece, and I go all the way down until I run out of space. I also do not trim anything. I'm going to press, and then I'm just going to leave them. I'm going to continue to stack them, put them back in the pile, come back with that next side. If it overlaps, I'm okay with that. Right? I'm going to put both pieces, I'm going to stitch them, press them again, and then their back sides will look kind of funny. That's okay with me. I'm okay with the bulk. I'm okay with the overlap. And so the drunkard's paths are also complete. I do press them. Oop, I grabbed two. I do press them towards the L, towards the outside of that curve. They're so fun and funky. But they went together very quickly. And they pressed out very nicely. I have not trimmed. I'm gonna hope that they all are relatively still 6.5, which they are, so that is good. So I'm ready to trim up the squares with the random half square triangles on them. Remember I said I wasn't trimming anything. I did the first one, pressed it, sewed the second one, and now I have a funny looking back. So what I'll do is just come in here with my correct size ruler, place it on the original square, trim all the way around it, and I'm tossing these little guys. I am not trying to create more scraps from scraps. If I would have done the half square triangle, etc., trimming, it would have been too much for my brain at the moment. So just for looks, right, just to see what we got here, we have two drunkard paths. We have our center squares, which we could go ahead and split in half. I don't really want two blues touching, so we'll go ahead and make two piles, and I'm just going to mock up the block. I'll trim this second one. Got a little thick there. I didn't go over it. The table started moving. It wasn't at the right angle. And then it goes like that. I'll take half this pile. You can see that there is directional. There is stripes in my green. I'm really not going to fuss over it. A majority of my drunken paths have the stripes going in the same direction. I did run across a couple that I must have flipped and turned at some point. All of my half square triangle wonky points have the stripes going up and down. These guys can technically just flip. If they go this way, it'll be the same. If they go that way, it'll be, it really doesn't matter at this point because it's going to touch another one. So I'm not worried about that once it gets put together. And up on the wall, I think that it'll just blend in. It'll disappear. It'll start moving. And so I could go now and build this block. But I am going to go ahead and trim the rest of these weird random cutoff guys. Table is wonky. I think it's falling off the edge. In the middle of doing this block this week, Sherry, the one that shared the original pattern that she had located with the templates and the rulers and, you know, all that fun stuff that I'm basing this off of. As I was filming all these, she did a live sit and sew in chat where she showed her way of doing these blocks. So I will link that live chat. I believe all hers was paper pieced. And so you'll see her sizes, right? Because ours are different. I did mine by brainstorming and creating math based off my drunkard's path rulers. Hers was based off the FPP papers that she ended up using. So I went ahead and put the greens with the greens. I realized that I had a lot of blue scraps, and if I would have mixed the greens and the pinks like I had talked about earlier, I would have ran into a lot of issues with blues touching blues. And I was trying really hard to, you know, to keep them separated. But this is a thought. If at some point you do end up making this and you have the two different backgrounds, this is a thought. So one block would look like this. And one block would look like that. And instead of going side by side, you would just rotate it a click. And then you would have green, pink, and then vice versa down here. And you would still have the same shapes. But I did choose not to do that this go around. As I was sewing the green blocks, I realized, like I said, the blues, I had a lot of blues. And so I had to be really mindful. See the blue there, and then the blue here, and then the blue here, and then again a blue here. That I wasn't putting them together. The blue, and that's a black blue. That's even a blue. And yeah, and it's so weird because I don't remember buying a lot of blue. But it was popping up a lot in these scraps. So I did choose to just go ahead and leave the green blocks as is. And I'm going to leave the pinks blocks just like they are. That was my original plan, right? 13 pinks, 12 greens. So those are done. The pinks are in their piles. I'm going to go ahead and piece these two. I do press to the larger, to the solid, to the one with less seams. I'll flip one of these over for you. I pressed to the Drunkard's Path on both, and then when I came here, I took my snips, and then I pressed them opposite into the one with less seams. So all 13 pink blocks are done. I'm super excited for this. Excuse me. I'm going to put up the picture from the color wheel again that showed, you know, the pink and the green. When I realized I didn't have enough background fabric to make 25 blocks. I did look it up and it complemented that, the pink and the green. So here we have my blocks. I am gonna try to get, I can only get a handful of them up on the design wall. There's no way it can hold a whole quilt, but I will get some up there and try to turn the camera around and get you guys a shot of that. And then we'll call it quits. This video was just me learning to do curves for the first time. And then it also went into being a scrap buster and how to, you know, play with a pattern but make it my own and use what I have. Alrighty, give me just a second. So I currently got 12 up on the wall, and you'll see that I rotated the blocks slightly, or one click, depending on its position. So the pink, the green, and the pink, and then I'll just proceed on. It'll end up being 5 across and 5 down. Pictured here is 3 across with 4 down. All of them can go the same way. I'm kind of liking the secondary, like here where the 4 spikies are pointing in, and then here the 4 rounds. So then over here it's going to be the 4 spikes again, and then it rotates, the 4 rounds, the 4 spikes, and then this side will have the 4 rounds. But I'm liking it. Like I said, there's a lot of blue scraps, and it's so weird to me because I don't purchase a lot of blue, and I know these all came from previous projects, and it is a mix, right? So you got a lot of little, like, I Spies, you got a boat, you got chili peppers, you got anchors, we got a Georgia State, we got 1, 2, 3s and monkeys. We got ghosts and looks like a fruit of some sort. And so I know where a lot of these came from. You know, previous projects, previous toys, previous dresses. Super fun. Thanks so much for watching. I greatly appreciate you guys learning along with me. I know my videos are a tad different. They're not really tutorials. They're not really patterns. This is just me fumbling and mumbling and working my way through something new. Thanks so much for stopping by and creating with me. A like, a comment, a subscribe, and a share is always appreciated.